Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week's episode is a fun one because I'm sharing my slides from the NADA conference this last weekend. I wasn't picked to speak at this year's NADA conference. I'm guessing it's because last year I talked about how the manufacturer-approved vendor system is hopelessly broken and doesn't actually benefit any car dealers. So this year we set up a classroom section at the back of our booth and I did a presentation anyway. I shared some awesome new data from SEO audits of almost 700 dealership websites. So there's new stuff I've never talked about before. This week's episode is a bit longer than usual, but I'm gonna try to get through it quickly. So here we go. Well, this is how to be an automotive SEO superhero. You're watching this on my video series, but in case you haven't seen one of my videos before, I am Greg Gifford, the Chief Operating Officer of SearchLab, and I have a weekly video series I strongly encourage you to check out. It's called Local Search Tuesdays. You can hit it at our blog every Tuesday at the link right there. And here's a fun picture of me speaking at a conference. I'm lucky enough to be a popular conference presenter at conferences all over the world. So I get to see a lot of different presentations, and sometimes those presenters aren't really the most engaging. They typically stand locked behind the podium, and then their back is kind of to the crowd because they're just reading their own slides. And even worse, most of the time the background of the slides is just plain white with a bunch of black Arial font bullet points on the page. So all they do is sit there and read bullet points. And it's a scientifically proven fact that bullet points kill kittens. So today we're going to keep all the kitties safe. Now, typically there's always a movie theme to my presentations. And I usually include one movie for every year in the last 50 years. But because we were doing this at the booth over the weekend at NADA, we wanted to keep it a bit shorter. So I only had time to go back and include one movie for every year in the last 45 years, but we have 68 different superhero movie references in the presentation. And after I get through the first little jokey intro bit, we have all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in timeline order. So it's super nerdy if you're a superhero movie fan. So let's kick this off. Why the long face? Are you spending too much time looking up at other dealerships that rank higher in local searches? You don't need a big brain to succeed in SEO, even though it seems like it might be a lot of magic and voodoo. I've got a lot of hot tips that are going to help you crush your competition and kick ass in search results. In today's world, more than ever, especially coming off of COVID and the inventory shortage and going into a recession, you need SEO. The old strategies are no longer effective. Google released over 3,000 updates last year, and most of the providers in automotive haven't updated any of the strategies or tactics that they use. In today's world, every sale starts with a search online. So if you're not showing up in those local searches, you're not going to be selling cars or service to those local customers. So it's time to change the way that you think about optimizing your website for Google search results. You want to show up, you want to get those customers, you've got to do it the right way. SEO is your dealership's most important marketing channel. If you look at your Google Analytics, you're going to get more traffic and leads from organic visits from Google than every other source combined. The big problem, though, the OEM approved vendor program is not actually in your best interest. Once you get into the program, you have to give either the OEM or the go-between Shift Digital Internet Brands, whatever company it might be, a cut of what you're charging. So the only way you can make up that loss in revenue is to add more and more dealers onto your team, which ends up resulting in those vendors having teams that are ridiculously overloaded and they don't have time to do anything that's effective. They also have to sign any dealer that wants to sign, which means if a dealer is interested in working with an SEO vendor that's on the OEM approved list, that SEO vendor has to work with them. And once you're in the program, you are locked down into the packages that you had. It's ridiculously hard to try to update your service offerings once you're in the program, which results in every dealer getting the same cookie cutter service, regardless of where they are or what their business plans are. So a Ford dealership in Dallas, which is the densest Ford market in the country, gets exactly the same SEO strategy and tactics as a Ford dealer in Wyoming who doesn't have another competing Ford dealer for 150 miles in any direction. And those are two vastly different situations. So how would getting the same service in either situation be good for your dealership? To win in today's world, you need a customized SEO strategy to be able to win those local customers. Those OEM approved vendors are using the same strategies and tactics that they've been using for years. So they're not doing anything for you that's going to matter. And they're doing traditional SEO, not local SEO. Google actually has multiple algorithms at play. And for any search that has local intent, it's going to use its local algorithm, which means as a car dealer, you need to be working with someone that understands the intricacies of the local algorithm and how to do local SEO and target that algorithm. You also need to stop choosing your providers by who's the cheapest. SEO is sort of similar to attorneys or lawyers in that, you're paying for that attorney's time, that lawyer's time. Same thing with SEO. You're paying for time. You're not paying for software. So the less you pay, the less time you're getting. And you definitely need to stop choosing your providers based on who you can co-op, because the co-op system is designed to strongly encourage or even force you to use those vendors that are in the OEM approved program that aren't going to help you. You've got to stop expecting a souped up badass Mercedes if you're paying for a 40-year-old beat up Pinto. It's important to remember what I said just a few slides back, that Google uses different algorithms, because that local algorithm is totally different from the traditional algorithm. So if you're doing regular SEO, you're not actually doing the right thing for your dealership website. That local algorithm is more complex because it includes additional signals that the traditional algorithm doesn't even look at. We know that car dealers need local SEO. You don't have to trust me, because we know that any searches related to car dealers are automatically localized. I was in Plano, Texas, just north of Dallas, where we had the NADA convention this last weekend. And I did a search for Ford dealer. I didn't say near me. I didn't say nearby. I didn't say Plano. And notice in the map pack, it's showing me the 3 Ford dealers that are closest to my location. That shows that Google knows the search for Ford dealer has local intent, and it's using that local algorithm. And don't be fooled by the SEO vendors that say that they do local SEO just because they do your Google business profile. It's not just adding in your Google business profile. It's also optimizing your content the right way for the local algorithm, adding the right kind of content to target the local algorithm, building links and building the right kind of links that target the local algorithm. And you should be including reputation management in your SEO strategy as well, because reviews are a huge signal to that local algorithm. If you need help understanding how local SEO works, I like to use pizza delivery as an example. Now, there's a video from my series. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. But at a basic level, if you were sitting at the dealership in your office, you open up Google, type 2 words into Google, pizza delivery. You're going to get a list of all the pizza spots that are right there by the dealership. But then if you go home tonight and try the same search at home with the same 2 words, you'd get totally different search results. Even though you didn't specify that you wanted local results by using a phrase like your city or your neighborhood or even a county, or a phrase like near me or nearby, Google is going to change the search results that you see based on your location when you did the search. Now, with regular traditional SEO, you would get the same results regardless of your location. This is why local search results change based on what you're typing in and the location of where you are when you do that search. So that explains how it works. This video explains why you need it, because typically there are 13 spots on page 1 of search results, the 10 blue links plus the 3 in the map pack. But you're going to take out all the aggregators like cars.com, Car Gurus, Auto Trader. So once you remove those possibilities, you end up with only 7 or 8 spots that a dealership could actually show up on page 1. So if you've got more than 10 dealerships in your market, which pretty much any market in the country looks like that, that's a couple of people that aren't going to show up on page 1 unless they're doing good local SEO. And most of you are probably in a much bigger, more competitive market. There might be a couple of 100 dealers fighting for those 7 or 8 spots on page 1. So a little bit of simple math proves that you need to be doing local SEO. If you're in a bigger metro market, you should definitely watch the video and see how the math works out to show just how important SEO is. And if you boil Google down to the most simple concept. You should think about optimizing for search results like this. If you want to show up as a search result when somebody types in a particular search phrase, then you need a page on your website that's about that singular concept. And that page needs to be the best answer in the local area to the question that the searcher is asking. So you've got to have a solid content plan to be able to do that. And you need to optimize your site correctly for that local algorithm. You also need to be sure that you're building inbound links and optimizing your Google business profile and being really aggressive with reputation management if you want to win in today's world. Now, we've got an SEO scoring matrix that we use for 20 group meetings and for hand raisers at conferences. And that matrix is basically a mini SEO audit that scores the 4 areas that influence visibility in local searches, which is the content on your site and how it's optimized, the links pointed to your site, your Google business profile, and your reviews on Google and Yelp and how you answer those reviews. It's important to understand that the matrix scores on tactics, not on strategy. Strategy is where are you going, and tactics are how do you get there. Because we keep it at basic tactical level, you can't really argue the strategy. You couldn't take the results and go to your current vendor and say, hey, fix these things, because your vendor could say, well, that's their strategy. That's the wrong way to do it. Ignore it. But when it's basic tactics, everyone would agree these are things that should be done. So it helps uncover opportunities where you could be doing better. The scores are weighted to then approximate the value of each of these areas in Google's local algorithm. And then a score from 0 to 100 is assigned based on those 4 areas. Again, site content, inbound links, Google business profile optimization, and reviews. We've scored 652 dealerships since the beginning of last year. So I wanted to break down some of the things and show you some of the interesting things that we found. So if we break down the website providers among the 652 dealerships, here's how it broke down. No big surprise, dealer.com has the most sites because they're in all the OEM programs. They've been around forever. Followed closely by Dealer Inspire, and then Dealer On, and then Synchro and Sira is just 6%. And then we lump everyone else together. If there weren't enough to be at least 5%, it wasn't really statistically significant. So we just lumped all of the other providers together and they accounted for 12.7%. The highest score that we saw was an 83.6 out of 100. Now it's pretty much impossible for everything to fall perfectly to score 100, but really you should be targeting upper 60s to lower 80s as your score. And of all the 652, highest score was 83.6, but that was one of our clients. Let's take our clients out of the mix and just look at what we saw for the highest score. So the highest non-client score was a 65.2. The lowest score that we saw was a negative 58. It is possible to get negative points if you're doing things that are really, really wrong. The average score overall across the 652 was only 18.3 out of 100. The average on-site score was just 2.8 out of 44, which is 6.4% of what you could possibly score. The average inbound link score was 1.4 out of 10. That's only 14% of what you could score. The average Google Business Profile score was 9.9 out of 32, doing better, almost 31% of what you could possibly score. And the average score for reviews was 4.3 out of 14, which was only just shy of 31% as well. But of all of those scores, the one that has the most influence on your visibility in searches is the content on your site and how it's optimized, but it's the lowest average score. So it's the one that dealers are doing the least, but it's the most important, so it doesn't make sense. If we look at the website providers, Dealer Inspire was the highest scoring website provider by a very wide margin. So here's how the scores broke down by website provider. Dealer Inspire at 25.2, Dealer On at 18.9, everyone else at 15.2, Dealer.com at 14.6, and Synchro, or now Insira, at 13.7. But we should really ignore inbound links and Google Business Profiles and reviews because that doesn't really matter which website your provider you're on. So let's just look at the on-site scores. And once again, Dealer Inspire was the winner. Here's how the on-site scores broke down by provider. Now keep in mind, these are out of a possible 44 points. But Dealer Inspire at 7.8, Dealer On at less than half of that, everyone else at 2.9, Dealer.com at negative half, and Synchro / Ansira at a little bit more than -1. And you're saying, okay, Greg, but what does all of this really mean? It means if you want to succeed at SEO, you got to be on Dealer Inspire. You got to be aggressive with the content on your site and how it's optimized. And it's really that simple. So if you'd like to get your site scored, you can use this QR code to submit your URL, or if you have multiple URLs, you can fill them all in. We will score your sites, and then we'll hop on a call and explain those scores to you so you can either evaluate your in-house SEO team, evaluate your current SEO partner, or if you're not doing SEO at all, see what kind of opportunities there are with your dealership website. Thanks so much for sitting through that fire hose of information. Hopefully now, when you're thinking about SEO, you won't be down and depressed because you've got all of these hot tips to help you succeed. I know I used Ghostwriter in the beginning, but hey, this is the second Ghostwriter movie and the pun's just too bad / too good not to include twice. Now you won't be the underdog in searches, and your dealership will be super excited at how well you show up and how many leads you're getting. That was how to be an automotive SEO superhero. If you've got any questions, there's my email address. Feel free to email me. I won't try to sell you stuff. I'll just help you out and answer your questions. Or if you'd like a copy of these slides, you can email me, because at the end there is a list of all of the movies that were included. So you got a cool list of movies to watch later. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for sticking around to watch that. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned a few things. But clearly, we're out of time for this week's episode, so you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.